President Mahama assures the nation the long-standing power crisis that hit the nation is over.
A year ago, I stood before this very august house and promised to fix the power sector deficit.
Drama characterized the 3 hours 26 minutes of the President's State of the Nation address to Parliament, but the minority described it as disappointing and did not reflect the current state of the nation.
Members, let's have order.
But what do you think of the President's State of the Nation address delivered to Parliament? We'll hear from the experts.
Did he exude so much confidence? Why did he speak with so much authority? Three factors would, in the end, determine the content of this State of the Nation address.
So, what is the true state of the nation? That the President's State of the Nation reflects the true state of our country, where key questions on the state of the nation answered by the President. We'll find out shortly on today's big story. My name is Osei. President Mahama delivered an address that was liberally gingered with little stories of how policies influenced real people. As usual, there were heckles from the minority and cheers from the majority side as various sectors were offered for scrutiny. Now, first, let's hear from a senior research fellow from IDEG, Dr. Kwesi Jonah, who thinks the president was overconfident, and that the reason was for four things he did.
Presentation. First of all, the basic things, his appearance was very good, in proper gonja smoke. Throughout the presentation, he exuded a lot of confidence, to the extent of saying, I, the President of Ghana, the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. You saw a very, very confident, for somebody who faces a very difficult election in November, exuding so much confidence on such a very big public occasion. It means, yes, I think I am on solid ground. I can speak with confidence. But the other thing is, why did he exude so much confidence? Why did he speak with so much authority? Three factors would, in the end, determine the content of this State of the Nation address. Factor number one would be the energy crisis that he has been able to solve. For well over 1 year, Ghanaians went through a very difficult shortage of electricity. Industry could not produce, houses, people were sleeping in darkness, and so on and so forth.
That was actually 3 years of that hardship.
That's right. And then eventually, getting to the tail end of 2015, he was able to solve this problem. Now, this gives him some kind of confidence. He can appear before the people as the president who said he was going to fix Dumso, and stop it from turning into Dumkra, and was able to do it. So he can appear confidence. But the second factor is his extended credit facility with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The IMF program has two effects. Effect number one, the moment you are able to do a successful program with the IMF, all donors who were unwilling to give money now begin to pour money. And this has helped the government substantially. The IMF money is not really big, 918 million altogether for 3 years, 140 million US dollars every quarter. So you have collected two quarters, 200 and probably $36 million only. But other donors, when they see you doing a program with the IMF, then are ready to bring in more. And again, so this has helped the president to overcome some of the serious foreign exchange shortages. The factor number three is the energy plummeting oil prices and commodity prices in general. Now, when as a developing country dependent on your exports for earning foreign exchange, when commodity prices plunge so much, it puts you in a very difficult position. On the one hand, you have far less dollars to work with than before, except that in the energy sector, it is a double-edged sword for Ghana. We import a lot of
Crude.
so when the price is low,
We get it for cheap.
you get it for cheap. And so the energy plummeting commodity prices on the one hand exerts so much pressure on government. Lower cocoa prices, lower gold prices, and above all, lower crude oil prices, but it's also getting something back because you are paying less and less and less for, and so on and so forth. So it puts the government in a certain kind of situation. But the last factor is the election.
Okay.
By this time last year, when the president was presenting the State of the Nation address, the election looked so far away. This one, the election is only 9 months away. And so he could not have done this presentation without some kind of showmanship, without showing off his achievements. This is the last one before the election.
Okay.
So he had to take full advantage of it to demonstrate his achievements. So you could see that he spent so much time on social interventions. LEAP has been increased. On road networks, the man wanted to mention every single village.
And in fact, shortly, I'll take you through the number of minutes, sector by sector, and you would see clearly what that means in terms of the analysis.
Altogether, if you asked me, what are the factors that have determined the content of this particular State of the Nation address, I would say 4 of them.
Okay.
First, the energy problem that he has been able to solve.
The
Second, the
IMF
IMF bailout, the plummeting prices, and then the election.
Okay.
On the energy sector and the power crisis that affected the most part of 2015, the president declared doomsday over.
A year ago, I stood before this very august house and promised to fix the power sector deficit that at the time had become a significant constraint to the economic growth and had become a major disruption of the lives of Ghanaians, both at home and at work. Mr. Speaker, this was a time of considerable national anxiety. A huge deficit in power generation had resulted in prolonged power rationing. Mr. Speaker, I was painfully aware of the difficulties this situation was posing to Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians had to put up with long hours of darkness or spend money on expensive fuel to run their generators. Mr. Speaker, businesses faced serious disruption or saw their costs go up if they had to operate on generators. Mr. Speaker, on that occasion, I expressed my deep regret to the nation over the situation, and Mr. Speaker, I took full responsibility as President and leader of this nation and Commander-in-Chief. Mr. Speaker, I took full responsibility as Commander-in-Chief. It has not been easy. Mr. Speaker, it has been a year of hard work. Mr. Speaker, hard work that has made us achieve, Mr. Speaker, listen to this carefully. Hard work that has made us achieve the fastest mobilization of emergency power in the history of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, about 800 megawatts of power has been added to our generation within the shortest period of time. Mr. Speaker, within the shortest period of time, fast-tracking the finalization and commissioning of KTPP added 220 megawatts. Mr. Speaker, fast-tracking the commissioning of TICO's combined cycle added 110 megawatts. Mr. Speaker, mobilizing car power added another 220 megawatts. And Mr. Speaker, as I speak, Ameri is adding 250 megawatts extra power to our transmission grid. Mr. Speaker, in addition, 180 megawatts of Asogli Phase 2 is also available as soon as we can get extra gas for it. But, Mr. Speaker, much work still needs to be done. Much work still needs to be done to give us the comfort of sustainable generation going forward.
We'll still try and get Dr. Ishmael Aka from ASEP to speak on this issue. But let's do more analysis and talk about the economy and the general state of the nation presented to the members of parliament in parliament today. And on the phone line is Kweku Kwarteng. He's a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Good evening to you, Honorable. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Thank you for having me.
Honorable, your quick impression about the State of the Nation address delivered to you today by the President of the Nation.
Well, to be quite frank, I was not impressed at all by the delivery of the President today. First, a State of the Nation address should tell us our circumstances right now, why we are here, and our strategies to take us to improve on the situation. That is what a State of the Nation address should do. You ask the first question, what is the state of things in Ghana now? The government itself says that the economy has slowed down. The government has had to run to the IMF for bailout. I would have loved to hear from the President what made this the case. How come we needed to go to the IMF? What were the fundamental causes for this unfortunate situation? What are the strategies to take us out of a situation where we are having to depend on the IMF? I didn't hear those things. What, on the contrary, I saw were party activists brought across the country to testify that somehow life is going well for them one way or the other. That ought not to be the President's preoccupation, so that we left, those of us who pay attention to the finances and the national economy. You're not sure whether the government even appreciates the state of the economy. You're not sure what government's understanding of the situation is, whether government understands why we've gone to the IMF, and going forward, what the strategies are. So in respect of the economy, that is what I can say. But being an MP for Obuasi West, it's important I indicate. And since the President delivered his address, I have called hope. There is nothing happening on the Anya Kwanta Obuasi Road, contrary to what the President suggested, that work is ongoing and it's almost completed. That was untrue, and the people of Obuasi feel very sad about this because it suggests to us that nothing is going to be done on that road, because as it is, the government considers that work is far advanced and would soon be completed, when in fact nothing is going on that road.
But I think the President accepted or admitted the fact that we've had challenges with our economy. And he goes on to say that because of some of the measures we've taken, it's made our economy more resilient, even in a volatile global environment.
What made it necessary, therefore, to go begging for a bailout? Now, first, if the President accepts that the economy has faced challenges, he ought to have told us what has led to that, these challenges, what has led to them. Now, this is a country that from 2011, we have been reaping commercial quantities of oil through export. I mean, the benefits of commercial exportation of crude oil. This country, previous government did not have it. This is a government that has borrowed far more than any other administration. This government met a total debt of 9.5 billion in January 2009. We have now hit 100 billion. This is a government that has taken more taxes, including taxing even condoms, taxing everything. And this is a government that is saying that we have had difficulties with the economy so that we have had to run to the IMF. The economy is growing at a slow rate of 4%. Government is promising that there will be a turnaround. Given the good things that have happened to this country under this administration, what is responsible for the challenges in which we find ourselves until the president and his government can assess the situation properly and diagnose that, look, until we begin to save money from the wastage and the corruption and to put the resources in the productive sectors of the economy, we are going to be stuck in this kind of difficulty, which the president calls challenge. Until that diagnosis is made, and then we are taught in clear terms what the strategies are for dealing with this, we're not going to get anywhere. And that was my disappointment today, that the president was more particular about telling everybody that I am a good man. I have done so much for you. So vote for me again during the election time. He was so preoccupied with that and less interested in diagnosing the challenges facing the ordinary Ghanaian. Unemployment, companies closing down. He was less interested in assessing those difficulties and telling Ghanaians that I understand your pain and that these are the strategies going forward. Things will be good. I would have loved Aisha calling me and saying that the president acknowledged that the economy was not going as fast as it did recently. Therefore, jobs are not being created as they should. Unemployment going up. And that the president says he will do 1, 2, 3, 4. And that, Honorable Kwati, what do you feel about it? Then we'll be discussing strategies.
So you feel the president's address was basically campaign address, sort of?
It was a campaign. There was nothing in it. You see, it was more of, I am a good person. I have done so much for you. So vote again for me. That was the address. But I think that the address should have been longer on, I understand your pain. I understand the unemployment. I understand the rising cost of living. These are the reasons why we are here. Maybe we made mistakes in the past. But going forward, I have stopped this. I have stopped that payment. Presidential diaries have stopped it. GIPC is no more required to pay 1 million Ghana cedis to buy a page in presidential diaries. The Ghana Revenue Authority is not required to pay 1.5 million cedis for a page, a small page in a presidential diary. And that these are the savings that will be made so that going forward, some of the ills that have afflicted us
will be resolved.
And therefore, then we can have some hope.
Well, many thanks to you, Honorable Kweku Kwarteng, for your time on today's big story. We can now speak with Ishmael Aka from the Africa Center of Energy Policy. Good evening to you, Dr. Ishmael Aka. Many thanks for your time on today's big story.
I hope you are doing well.
Doing very good. The president spoke with much confidence and authority, declaring the power crisis over. He mentioned a number of megawatts that has been added on and lauded himself for being the fastest government to mobilize emergency power to resolve, for instance, our power crisis. Did he paint a true picture of the energy crisis, of the energy sector?
Oh, thank you very much. I think that in terms of generation capacity, I think last year there was a lot of plants coming on board, which are very good. The president promised that we'll be adding about 1,023 megawatts. And by the end of the year, we added between 585 and 700. We still have a way to go. But I was, to be frank, looking at two main issues. Generating has been done, but mobilizing emergency plants should not be an achievement. It should be something we should even cry over, because it means that We have not been planning, and emergencies are very expensive. So that one is just one issue. I was looking at distribution sector reform and sustainable fuel. Distribution sector reform because ECG, OGRA, they owe all these other organizations. ECG has been inefficient, they cannot pay. And even the U.S. government has recognized it, and through the Millennium MCC Compact 2, has allocated about $492 million to us. The first tranche of this money should get to Ghana by April this year. Unfortunately, the two conditions they gave, one for the government to pay agents to ECG, and two, to appoint a company that will manage the concession. We've not been able to do. I was expecting the president to highlight, look at how much we owe ECG. What is the strategy to pay this debt? And what are we doing to make ECG efficient so that even if private investment comes, they can pay? That's the first one. The second one is the fact that we don't have sustainable source of fuel. Last year, the president tasked the Ministry of Petroleum that they should fast-track the reverse flow from Atuabo to Tema, and gave them March this year as a deadline. As of now, we've not been able to finish. What is happening, nobody knows. And he didn't say anything about it to the extent that Asogbe has finished its 180 megawatt plant. It's sitting down because Asogbe uses only gas and they don't have gas. Meanwhile, there may be excess gas in our trouble. Because we can't do a reverse flow, the gas may not get to them. So these are some of the things I was expecting that the president will highlight, yes.
Dr. Akwa, from where you sit, does it look like Doomsaw is over?
Doomsaw is not over, and whoever says Doomsaw is over is a very big liar.
Well, many thanks to you, Dr. Ishmael Aka is from the Africa Center for Energy Policy. The president also talked about health, and we want to speak with the president of the coalition of health NGOs, Dr. Gabriel Benanko, who is on the line with me now. Good evening to you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, good evening, Aisha, and good evening, Ghana.
Doc, the president spoke at length. For instance, one of the biggest crises affecting us as a nation is tackling the outbreak of the strains of meningitis affecting the nation now. The president outlined a number of measures to deal with that. He also talked about some issues that will improve the health sector, but in a sector where the NHIS is not working as it's supposed to do, and other crises in the health sector, you feel the president addressed the true state of the health sector?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, let me just make it a point that the president was very confident in presenting the State of the Nation address to everybody. That is a very good positive sign as a leader. With that kind of energy, it tries to drive along people to perform their duties very well. And I also want to commend the president for the initiative on the construction of more health facilities, especially the CHIP compound. But the issue of the national health insurance, the fact that we have achieved 40%, does not necessarily mean that we are making progress there. We don't really need to redesign the national health insurance. What we need to do is the president should use his leadership to fit any ministry and department or agency that relaxes in performing their duties. And we are taking this opportunity to let the president know, because in his presentation, he's already aware of the situation. The delay in paying the national health insurance service providers is collapsing our health system. So that is a major move. He must tell Ghanaians practically how he will use his executive powers to influence the way and manner we finance our health insurance and how we pay the service providers. Two, we have not strengthened our health system very well as we speak now to respond to emergency cases. And a typical example is the recent meningococcal meningitis. You have heard about the coalition of NGO position on so many grounds why, even as we speak now, you get to major hospital and clinics, you cannot see even a poster on meningococal meningitis.
So certainly the president did not address the true picture, or he didn't paint a true picture of the health sector to us in delivering his State of the Nation.
He has touched on the topical and the surface, but practically we want the president to tell us how he's going to ensure that universal access to health coverage is materialized practically, especially with the National Health Insurance and the Chief Compound support.
Well, many thanks to you, Dr. Gabriel Benanku, for your time on today's Big Story. This is today's Big Story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Have a good evening.